Hey everybody, welcome to CAF Warbird Tube, the show where we talk about World War II, aviation, history, and so much more. Warbird Tube is produced by the Commemorative Air Force, the world's largest flying museum. Our mission is to educate, inspire, and honor through flight and living history experiences. The CAF began the Warbird movement more than 65 years ago, and thanks to the support of individuals like you, we continue to grow strong. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and now our host, Steve Buss. Thanks for watching and keep 'em flying.
Good evening, airplane fans, and welcome to CAF Warbird Tube. Glad to have you with us tonight as we celebrate number 182. And tonight we're going to talk about the CAF Wisconsin Wings T-34 Mentor. And we've talked about this airplane in the past, but it has just been an interesting journey to get it to where it is today. And it is another one of our 12 planes of Christmas. And we'll talk about that, the history of the airplane, and a little bit about the Wisconsin Wing as well. So stick around, we'll do that in just a moment. But if you are joining us for the first time, or you're a loyal Warbird Tube fan, we are very happy to have you with us. If you would be so kind, please, if you like our content, spread it across your favorite social media platforms. We do appreciate it, and we continue to grow our subscriber base, and that means more and more folks are learning about the mission of the CAF and these historic airplanes from World War II. Now, speaking of the CAF, Warbird Tube is made possible by the Commemorative Air Force. If you'd like to find out more about the CAF, our events, our aircraft, our local units like the Wisconsin Wing, or how you can join the fun, just visit our website, commemorativeairforce.org. Now, as you're watching tonight, you might have some questions. Just type those in the chat box. I will try to either get them into the presentation, if it makes sense, or we'll save them until the end. But rest assured that if you have a question, we will do our best to make sure that we get it answered this evening. Now, joining us from the Wisconsin Wing, from just outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, at the Waukesha Airport, is Candy Parr, Mike Doble, and Gary Otto. And you guys have got a great perch overlooking both of the airplanes that are with the wing. Good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Well, let's go around the horn a little bit and find out how you got involved with the CAF. Candy, let's start with you. You're the unit leader, so you have to go first.
Okay. I went to Gathering of the Warbirds here in 2016. Got introduced to the group and thought you had to be a pilot to be in it. So I just volunteered at the next event and then eventually joined, met with Gary and joined, and now I'm the wing leader. I don't know what happened.
Volunteer.
That's usually how it happens. Mike, how about you?
I have a great mentor. He's the XO. Gary's the XO.
There you go.
Yeah, and Gary Otto here. I've been involved with the CAF here since 2008. I was flying my friend's SNJ-4 and just needed to get into the Warbirds here locally. And just about that time, the Wisconsin Wing was getting reorganized and was able to get a beautiful PT-26 and start flying. And I got involved with flying the PT-26, and I was flying my friend's SNJ. And it just kind of evolved from there and all the way through here. And I've been flying our SNJ-5 that we have now. It's been assigned since 2011. And so I just love flying these Warbirds. Being able to fly both the SNJ and the beautiful T-34 we have is just such an honor and a privilege.
Very good. And go ahead.
No, and my name's Mike Doble. I'm one of the sponsor pilots for the T-34. And I got involved in the CAF just about a year ago. I actually joined for the first time about a year ago. I've been an aviation enthusiast all my life. Got my pilot's license in 1991, a degree in aerospace engineering from college, but just recently got involved in the CAF. And the reason being is I saw what the CAF was doing and how they were trying to grow and how the wing was developing. And joined the national organization, and it's kind of one of those things as the new guy in the room, you don't really understand how it works. And somebody said, hey, you really should go to the Bomber Ground School down in Dallas. So my wife and I last February went to Bomber Ground School. I trained as a scanner on Diamond Lil, and as we all know, in the CIF circle, Diamond Lil stayed in the hangar this year, getting some work done. But once again, we'll go to Bomber School. Well, when I got back from Bomber School, I said, well, you know what, I got to stop in and say hi to the Wisconsin Wing. And I did. I stopped at a meeting, and Gary took me on one of the most expensive free airplane rides I ever had. He put me in the back seat of the T-34, and which is surprisingly much like my Bonanza in a lot of ways, although very different. And I was instantly hooked. And not long after that, I did my transition training. I paid my sponsorship fees and spent a really great summer this summer in Wisconsin doing a lot of flyovers and honor flight escorts, and just really, I don't know, I've just really jumped in with both feet. It's been great, and these two sitting to my right and screen left, they've been great people to kind of just get me hooked. They've even dragged my wife in now, and she's the flyover coordinator for the wing. So she gets all the pilots and airplanes married up for flyover requests for the public and whatnot. So just been a really great experience. And honestly, I haven't even been a CAF member for over a year yet. So my anniversary is December 7th, coincidentally.
There you go.
I'd like to say that at the Wisconsin Wing, we take our mission to educate and inspire and honor seriously, and we try to get every one of those mission objectives accomplished with everything we do. And I think we do it, and we do a great job of it. I'm very proud to have a team that works so hard, getting a year full of flying in so much accomplished in a season.
Yeah, we work very, very hard and never saying no, which isn't always easy. I mean, it's not always easy to find a pilot who's available to fly a particular mission for a funeral for a veteran that happened to pop up. We can all anticipate Memorial Day and some of the stuff we have, in the summertime and, and Veterans Day flyovers. But, some of these pop-up events that occur where, we might have had an Air Force veteran that trained in a T-34 and the family's like, what is it going to take to get a flyover done for this funeral? Trying to, making sure the weather's right, the aircraft's ready, the pilot is available and doing all that coordinating. But we try really, really hard to never say no. And it's important to us to keep the airplane moving and flying and keep the maintenance up to date. But it's also a very expensive endeavor as well. So we spend a lot of time trying to do as much as we can ourselves. So
exactly. About how many flyovers do you do? On a typical year, just ballpark figure.
Ballpark, I'd say around 30.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, quite a bit.
It's a pretty heavy schedule.
And all the honors flights, we escort all the honor flights.
Yeah, we do honor flight escorts for the honor flights going to Washington. We've been doing that for like 15 years. We park next to the honor flight as it's preparing in the morning, 6:30 or departure on the first flight and 7:30 on the second one usually. We park next to it, and then we, with both our planes hopefully available, we're there, and we escort the plane out to the runway through the water cannon salute, and then we take off and do a teardrop turn and fly over with a salute to them as we fly over, and then they take off for Washington. It really touches so many lives doing that. The families are just overwhelmed with the honor that adds to their trip. It's really wonderful.
Yeah, and that's on the slide that you're seeing right now. It's a great shot of the T-34 on the taxiway with the Southwest jet, with the honor flight going underneath the water cannon salute. So, that's the kind of thing, if we can use these aircraft, and the CAF is a 100% donor sponsored organization. Us as pilots and members, we put a lot of time and effort and resources to make all these missions happen, and we're honored to do it. Quite frankly, I can't think of a better way to give back and use our resources to educate, inspire, and honor. But the honor flight is a really, really fun thing. I did my first one with Gary. I flew the T-34, and I mean, what an amazing experience. Really, really touching for us as pilots as well. To see the veterans and how much they appreciate it, waving through the window and their thumbs up and all that. It's pretty special moments.
Yeah, and one thing we do, besides honoring all those veterans going to Washington, we usually have someone special, a veteran or a family member of a veterin, in the back seat of the plane during this thing. they get just a wonderful experience, in the back seat. So it's a double effort there to, we put tears in people's eyes and really do our mission successfully with that.
And one time I was in the back seat of it, the SNJ, and the pilot came out from Southwest and wanted to know what we were doing there. Gary explained to him what we did, and he looked behind our plane and he saw the T-34 and he goes, "I flew that in the Air Force." He's taking pictures. So we bring joy to a lot of people.
Yeah, pretty awesome. But other types of events that we do flyovers for is here in Wisconsin, especially. We have a lot of Harley rides, and a lot of them are to honor veterans. One in particular that stands out I did was a Hogs for Heroes event where they raise enough money in this event to donate a motorcycle to a veteran. And in one of the slides that in photos is the T-34 with smoke on over that event, which was pretty spectacular, and just to look over my shoulder as I'm going over and see the huge crowd that's down there gathered for that event. And, to see a CAF T-34 go over the top with smoke on. Fortunately, somebody captured a great shot of it, a nice photo.
Yeah. Thank you, Phil.
But yeah, just amazing opportunity to, like I said, it's an honor to be able to do it. And, I've only been doing it for less than a year, and it's, and in this year, I've logged over 50 hours in the T-34. Either through in training proficiency, but then mostly on missions, honor flight, some flyovers for events. We did the first pitch at our local semi-pro baseball team. We did a flyover for the national anthem for that. Just a lot of different types of events, and quite frankly, it keeps you pretty busy.
Sure.
It's a lot of fun. So
very good. Well, I mentioned at the beginning, if people had questions or comments, to just type those in the chat box. And your friend Bob Weigert says hi. So he's watching tonight.
That's awesome.
He'll have the critique in later on, I'm sure.
So I did want to add that, one of the things that we're trying to accomplish here with the 12 Planes of Christmas is that we need to get this plane into the rides, the CAF rides program, because that's going to add a whole new dimension of sharing this, our mission of educating and inspiring and just being able to do the rides program. And that's what a very important component of what we're trying to raise money for. So that's really a step ahead, big step forward for the airplane. It's flying beautiful now. We're able to do a lot of missions, but we need to get it into that rides mode program, and that's what we need to be able to accomplish with the money that we need.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the aircraft, when it came out of this, and Steve, you're well aware of the extent of the restoration of this aircraft and the cost. It ended up in the experimental category at the end of the restoration. So the aircraft right now is certificated as an experimental. In order to fly rides, it doesn't qualify for the CAF's waiver for rides in experimental aircraft because they're civilian type aircraft that are similar. So we need to get it out of the experimental category into standard category. So that's something I've tried to take on myself over this summer, and I actually found an ANPIA that was willing to volunteer his time to help me with paperwork because it can get super expensive. But there's still some work to be done. We have some instruments that need to be recalibrated and reset and recertified. That work is going to get done. We have radios that are, they overheat and get intermittent. They're pretty old original radios. So they get intermittent. We have a system to make it work. We know which one. We know how to switch radios when one starts giving out, so that we can keep them cool enough to operate. But it's just a lot of little things, and from a safety of flight issue when you're carrying passengers, right. There's a much higher expectation, and when we get it into standard category, there's just some things that we know we need to do before we kick off our rides program, and that's this budget that we set for the 12 Planes of Christmas. That's specifically what that money is going to go for, and with the money that we raise, we'll be able to address the radio issue. We'll be able to address the intercom issue. Right now, we're using a portable battery-operated intercom. which is important to get something that's hardwired and we're not relying on the batteries, especially when we have a passenger that may not be, familiar with riding an aircraft. And then there's, some last little tidbits, STCs and whatnot that need to be addressed, get signed off on. And then hopefully by spring, our goal is spring of 2025 to have paperwork done, submitted, approvals, and be able to kick off our rides program for the next flying season.
Right. So take us back. The airplane itself has, before it came to the CAF, has had a pretty interesting history. And then once it was donated to CAF, another interesting story on how that all happened. And then you've done a lot of work to it. So let's take us back to before it was in CAF and kind of walk us through the history of the airplane itself.
Well, that airplane, it served the Air Force as a trainer. It was built in 1953, wasn't actually commissioned into the Air Force until 55. So it's a little confusing on the nameplate. It says it was built in 53, but all the data plates say 55. So, but it served as a primary trainer for the Air Force. When it was done with that, it moved over to the Civil Air Patrol, and it served in several Civil Air Patrol locations around the country. And after the Civil Air Patrol was done with it, it got packed up into a crate and sold off and went to the Philippines. And it served, a private corporation owned it there and flew it all over in the islands there and put a lot of time on it. And really, the plane came back from the Philippines, and if you see the pictures of it, it looked like it's been through a war. It was just terrible. The paint was terrible. Everything was ratty on it. It was terrible. And an owner bought it from that corporation in California, and he did the most beautiful restoration of that plane inside and out. Nothing was spared. Everything that they could do to that plane was done to it, with the increase in horsepower to 300 and adding the smoke system and new paint job on it, and everything was done to that in 1989. And through a series of events, that plane ended up going into a hangar in 1990 and sat there until 2017. And it was stored 29 years it sat, and was in the back corner. And I can go into details on why and whatever, but it looked just like it looks now, except every piece of rubber on it had deteriorated. The tires were dried and cracked, and the fuel cells that were brand new when they put it away were all dried up and cracked. So the owner finally realized that he was never going to get that thing going, and he donated it to the CAF. We had a big effort to try and get him to make that decision, and he did. And so we brought it back to life from 2017 up through just a few years ago. It took quite a few years to get that thing in full restoration, because it looked beautiful right from day one. Clear, beautiful plexiglass, and the seats looked like new, and the interior, exterior looked like new, but everything that turned or moved or rotated had to be redone. And we're there now. It's just flying. We fly it almost every week, and it's just it's really carrying out the mission for the CAF after all of that effort. So there's a lot of details you could fill in between, and stories about how we got this and that part or whatever, but the result now is just wonderful.
Yeah, that's one thing that people don't think about is, like you said, it looked gorgeous from the outside, right? And the interior looked great, but inside, everything that could dry out was dried out and needed to be redone and refurbished to bring it up to airworthy condition. And then you ran into some airworthiness directives as well. Right.
Yeah, the engine had 50 hours on it since overhaul before sitting for all those years. And so it was just all rusted solid. I mean, it was not, there's no preparation for sitting that many years. And the propeller, 50 hours on a brand new prop, total overhaul required because of time more than anything. And so, new fuel cells, new tires, even the gaskets around the canopy were just disintegrating. The rubber was just like turning to powder. So it was really a restoration that was just such a overwhelming to start with. We never dreamt it was going to be so involved, but it was worth every effort that we had, and all the fundraisers that we did to get it to where it is really paid off. And it's I think it's the finest, one of the finest T-34s flying today.
Did you have to do any work on the wing spars? Was this airplane one of those?
Right. This sat in storage all through the wing spar mod period when all the planes were getting their wing spar mods. There's 3 different ways to accomplish that. And 2 of the 3 ways were gone by the time we needed to accomplish that. There was only 1 left, and the GAMI mod that was only one people. There were only people doing it, and so we got down to Oklahoma and got it in their shop, and they did their wing spar modification and got it all up to speed. I think there's 3 different AMOCs that they came up with. They had an alternate method of compliance that still complied with the AD, and we got all that accomplished. So we had to do all of that because the plane sat in storage through that whole period.
Amazing. But now it's out and flying, and I see that Mickey Mouse isn't on the tail anymore.
Yeah, that's a lot of people ask about that. When that plane was originally restored, the owner had something in his back of his mind, and he liked Adolf Galland, the ace, the German ace, and his Messerschmitt. He had a Mickey Mouse with Mickey smoking a cigar and carrying a blunderbuss and an axe, and that was on our tail. And there were people who said that does not belong on the T-34. So we had it removed, and it's now we're going to put a big WI on there for Wisconsin. So the last move that we're going to put on there, we're trying to get that done the next time the plane's sitting for a little bit. But right now we don't have time to do any painting on it because it's flying every week.
All right.
Yeah, it's flying quite a bit. There's a lot of people that came before me that invested a lot of time, effort, and money to make sure that this airplane was ready for what it's doing now. And right now, I mean, we're putting a lot of hours on the airplane, and it doesn't sit. That's for sure. There's no rubber seals that are going to lose their pliability because it's sitting. That's for sure.
Yeah,
That's true.
One point I'd like to make is back in 2016, the Wisconsin wing, we were looking to the future, and we said, we need an all-metal airplane. We need a nose-wheel airplane. We need a plane that can attract new pilots and retiring airline pilots and people that are really hard to get tailwheel time experience that don't have it. We need a plane for that. We said, let's look for a T-34. And we started a nationwide search of looking for it. And one of our members came to us and said, why are you looking? There's one in the hangar 6 doors down from where we keep the SNJ. It's been there for I don't know how long. And sure enough, back in the corner of that hangar, all covered up with sheets, was this airplane sitting right on our airport. And so a lot of people say, oh, you knew that was there. That's a big, I said, we had no idea that was there until we were told about it. And amazing story.
Well, yeah, just think about how many people come and go from an airport community in almost 30 years, and it's no wonder that none of you knew it was there because you wouldn't have known it got put in the back of the hangar to begin with. It's an amazing story.
Yeah, and what's great about this particular airplane is that it really does lend itself well for doing rides. Yeah. From a cost of operation standpoint, it's fairly economical to operate. And when we have a veteran's family or somebody contact us that wants whether it's to give a ride for somebody, whatever, I have no problem volunteering because my out of pocket on it is pretty nominal. The SNJ can be a little more heavy on the pocket when you fly it. But just from a currency standpoint, I like my daily flyer is a Bonanza, and for me to jump back and forth between the Bonanza and the and this is to Gary's point, when I'm flying a Bonanza all the time, to jump into the T-34 and fly it, it's super easy. I don't have to retrain my feet on what they need to do. It's got the same feel, and it drives just the same way as the Bonanza does. And to Gary's point, if my only option was to jump into the SNJ or the PT-26 to join the wing and actually fly planes, I would not have qualified. I would not have been able to do it because I just don't have the access to a tailwheel aircraft. So it was a smart move for the future of our wing, and now we have 9 sponsor pilots on the T-34.
Yep.
And having 9 pilots helping to defray the monthly, fixed cost of, harboring this aircraft, is great because it definitely keeps our hourly costs. I fly it a lot, so my hourly gets divided out, much deeper. And it really is an economical way to keep the mission alive and keep promoting the mission and growing the wing. We get to a lot of places.
So back to the restoration and the current category it's in. How did it end up being licensed experimental?
Well, that's a good question. When we were doing the modifications on this back in 1989, one of the biggest mods that people wanted to do on T-34 was remove the bungee cords from the ailerons. They were self-centering on the stick, and they were in there to basically help the pilot be better or whatever. Everybody wanted to remove those things, and so they were checking them out, and someone was applying for an STC to do that. It was not approved yet. So what they said was, okay, go ahead, take the bungee cords out. We'll put it into an experimental category for a couple months while we wait for this STC to come through. Well, what happened was that STC came through, but it was after that plane was done and flying for that 50 hours and then put away and stored, and it never saw the conversion back to it. So then we found out that there were about 5 or 6 other major modifications done on the plane that were not documented through standard category. STC for the 300 horse engine conversion was one of them. And the ailerons, there was a conversion on the tail to put aluminum elevators instead of the magnesium. A lot of things were requiring paperwork and documentation that just were not done because, oh, it's an experimental, we didn't have to do that. Well,
right.
So we're catching up with all of it now, and we're down to just a few things left, and that's where we're at with this budget to do it. We want to add, though, Mike was saying, this plane is, call it eye candy, whatever you want. When we fly, right to that picture, you see the wing of the T-34 and the SNJ. We bring these planes to a show, and they are magnets. They draw people out. And I was kidding Mike when he first started flying at some of our air shows. I said, you fly in with your Bonanza, do you get all these people coming out of the airplane like, go climb on the wing and go see the cockpit on that? I said, this is a little different than flying the Bonanza around. This is just such an honor and a privilege to be doing this, but it gives you such a good feeling that all that effort we put into keeping these planes flying, it all pays off when you're doing a mission like that and you see especially young people. I just love to get young people involved with these airplanes. And boy, they're attracted to planes like this.
And there's young Mike in the back right now.
Yeah, right.
A young kid for a ride.
Yeah, that's the most expensive plane ride I didn't have to pay for. That's it right there. But yeah, when we do a lot of, we've talked about the honor flights, we talked about the flyovers and taking veterans for rides, which are sponsor pilots volunteering, to fulfill a wish for a veteran. We do a lot of air show events where we go to the air show and put the aircraft on static display for people to come by and see it and ask questions and that sort of thing. But it's when we do that, there's a lot of youth that come through, and universally they want to be in the cockpit. So you spend a lot of time lifting kids in and out. It can be a long day, but it's super rewarding to see the looks on their faces when they sit behind the controls and you actually take a moment, especially some of the older ones, and you take a moment to explain how the cockpit's organized with communication equipment on one side and engine instrumentation on the other, and kind of go through it with them and kind of demystify the aircraft a bit. And I've had several events this year where kids were just like, this is, I want to do this. I never really understood it, but now this is something I really want to do. I'm not sure if the parents really appreciate it because they're probably going to end up paying for flying. But it is a really, really great way to spread the word and to, we're out there in our flight suits and, we really spread the word. And I would imagine, I think the Air Force should be giving us money for recruitment because that we definitely are out there recruiting future pilots for the United States Air Force. That's for sure.
Yeah, Mike was commenting on the older kids enjoying the cockpit, but I love the younger ones. It inspires them. But the most often I hear is the little kids look at the panel and they say, boy, there are a lot of clocks in here. I guess so.
Time is very important.
It is.
And the CAF does have a scholarship program. There was, we were just talking about that in August, and there was a lot of funds left over a couple $100,000 worth of scholarships to get flying lessons that were left on the table.
Yeah.
So CAF does have scholarships for the kids.
Yeah, and then, with the program that we're pursuing right now in the current fundraiser, we're hoping to be able to turn that participation at some of those fly-in events into the ability to also offer some rides. And, so instead of, us showing up and just static display, let the people, help us keep the airplane flying by buying some rides, and they can see the aircraft in action and they can feel it. So yeah, we're very much looking forward to getting this done in the spring, for sure.
If you're looking for a gift that someone has everything, this is a gift. A ride in a Warbird.
Well, this is an interesting project because most of the 12 Planes of Christmas that we talk about, we have talked about, we will talk about, or just in general in the CAF, is when you're doing a restoration, you're talking about the mechanics of it. Like the original restoration that you did, having to redo the fuel bladders and the tires and all the seals and all that kind of thing. So that's usually what we think about. We're thinking about a restoration, but in this case, it's a restoration of the airplane to its original licensure to allow you to do the living history flights. So this is a little stranger. It's hard to say, well, your donation will go toward I don't know, a new clock in one of the new clocks, and you did mention a few electronic things like the intercom and the radios and things like that. But so far, have people responded to the drive rather than being able to say, oh, your donation will go toward recovering the ailerons, where this is a little more esoteric because it's like, well, we have to fix the paperwork. How have people reacted to it?
So I think so. There are some physical things that need to be done, and I personally, when I've spoken to people about it, I've tried to focus on the physical things that need to happen. One of the most expensive parts of this last phase is really the STC paperwork associated with the engine conversion, right? So it has a no-go engine conversion into the IO 550, and Noble issued or sold the STC to the airplane owner back in the 80s. And so now I'm having to go to Noble and say, hey, this was done back in the 80s, but it was experimental, so they never did a 337. So they never finished this paperwork. And Judd Nogle has been very, very helpful. He answers my calls every time I call. He's just a really good supporter of the community. He's a T-34 guy himself. He has two amazing T-34s in his hangar. I went down to visit him. But he's been super helpful, but it still requires my mechanic to go in. We have two gauges that have to be swapped out, recalibrated. Just because when they did it, we had a separate fuel flow manifold pressure gauge. Well, the STC, has to follow the letter of the law. So those two gauges have to be removed, and we have to put in a combination manifold fuel flow gauge, right? So it doesn't sound like a big deal, but then we need to get we need to find the gauges that are compatible with the aircraft. We need to get them calibrated for the particular engine installation and fuel pump that we're using. So it just becomes this long, drawn out process with, from a hardware standpoint, there is some expense, but the biggest standpoint is paying the labor and the time and the effort. And then I have to actually get the airplane physically from Waukesha down into Champaign, Illinois, to have Judd actually take a look at it, to sign off on the paperwork, make sure everything is just so that that 337 can be submitted. So yeah, it is hard. And back to your original question, once people really understand what the intent is, the intent being that we're trying to find a way to fund this aircraft in perpetuity. So in exchange for a ride, we're going to get some revenue. That revenue is going to offset operating costs. And it's interesting. Most of the people I talk to, it says, hey, if you had the opportunity to fly in this aircraft, would you take it? For a small fee of $325, I mean, those are the people, and they've responded tremendously well. A few people that I've spoken to about donating to this campaign are donating so that they can eventually pay for a ride, because they want to see that happen. Because otherwise, there's a lot of people in the general public that would never get the opportunity to jump in an authentic Air Force training aircraft, and that's a big draw. So once you frame it in the right light, donors do get pretty excited about seeing us be successful, so they can take advantage of the opportunity to take a ride or to buy a ride for a loved one, or even mom or dad that was served in the Air Force or Army. So it's pretty cool. So I from my view, the response has been really great. We've already raised some matching donor funds. So I already have $3,000 committed in matching donor funds. So we're using that as a little bit of enticement to double your donation for the 12 planes of Christmas. So I'm pretty excited about it. I think that if we can get the word out in the right way, pull the community together, and instead of being a static display at Food Truck Fridays at Waukesha Airport, we'll be selling rides at Food Truck Fridays at the airport on Fridays in the summertime. So super stoked about that. And and who doesn't want to take a ride in an Air Force plane and have 200 people as their audience while they take their ride, so.
You have to explain what Food Truck Friday is.
Okay, yeah. So so we're based here at the Waukesha County Airport in Waukesha, Wisconsin. So we're about 20 minutes from downtown Milwaukee, just west. So we're out of the congestion of the Milwaukee airspace. So Waukesha County Airport is a very attractive place for a lot of people. We consider it a country club surrounded by a fence. It's very much open to whoever wants to be here. Everybody has their alternate mode of transportation while they're on the airfield. For me, it's a hybrid electric gas bicycle, but others have golf carts, and one guy runs around on one of those electric skateboards. I'm sure he'll correct me on what that is. There's the one-wheel crew.
Yep.
So we have this whole group of people that gravitate towards the airport and are part of this community. The airport manager organizes every Friday at lunchtime for food trucks to come in to the airport. They actually bring them inside the fence line of the airport, and they let people come in to, like, it's essentially every Friday in the summer is an open house with food trucks right there at the Atlantic ramp at the terminal building. So they're on the other side of the fence, and there's jets there. There's people. Actually, in the photo that's on your display right now in the background is a Nanchang CJ6 that's owned by Jeremy Keys. He's one of our instructor pilots in the T-34, and he brings his Nanchang out and lets people take a look and walk around. When we have pilots available, we get the T-34 out there, the S&J out there. So it just becomes this every week sort of fun event where it's almost an open house. You don't know what airplane's going to be there. We do some flyovers for it. The food is out there, and you'd be surprised. We get 200, 250 people out there every Friday in the summertime. A lot of local office workers, sure. Guys from the airport. It's just a really good time, and the broader point is there's just an amazing sense of community around our airport, and if we can continue to grow that through expanding our offerings as a wing, we're super excited about it.
And we're really lucky to have Kurt, the airport manager, and Sarah in operations. They promote us left and right, and they just love us to be there with their planes. So.
Right. We also have our PX set up almost every Food Truck Friday, and we're offering all the CAF things to sell, the shirts and the hats and things like that. But it's a great recruiting effort too. We've received new members from just people walking up and seeing our airplanes and seeing it's great exposure, and everybody on the airport knows about us because we're there for all the events here.
Yeah, and Candy, to your point, I was going to say the same thing. Is having an airport manager who understands the value of not only the tenants and the businesses that are at the airport, but the general public, and giving them an opportunity to come in and see what's going on and understand what goes on behind the fence. It kind of takes down some of the mystery of those people in their airplanes. You get the general public in and they realize you're just like everybody else. You just happen to have fun with airplanes.
Right, and they would field a lot of calls for the flyovers. So. Sure. Joan, Mike's wife, she's a pilot also. She's our flyover coordinator now, and I asked Kurt, I said, how about if we have a link on the website at the airport to ours, and then Joan create a flyover request form. And so we work together, just helping each other out. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, that is great to have that kind of cooperation. So many times we hear about airport managers that, I'll stand in my soapbox, that they really don't want anybody flying at their airport. They want it to be their own. They don't want anybody to have fun, and it's just so when you see something like Waukesha, and there are other airports all around the country that have that same sort of sense of community. It's really a great place to be, and you can't replicate it anywhere else except on an airport.
Right. Yeah. And we're having our wing meeting in December, and we're having Santa show up and hand out candy canes in the lobby, and he's going to put that out on the website of the airport. So we'll get more people just to learn more about us,
Okay, so your December meeting will actually be at the terminal building?
We meet the second Saturday of every month, and it's right at the terminal. So people know right where it's 10:30 on the second Saturday of the month.
So again, you've now, with the cooperation of the airport, you've taken down one of the barriers that a lot of units and wings face, and that is they may have a hangar and it's a gorgeous facility, but if it's behind the security fence, if you don't have the gate code or you don't have the badge, how do you get in? So being able to have that in the terminal that's open to the public is wonderful.
Yeah, and the airport, it's kind of unique. Waukesha County Airport is self-funded. So there is federal funds that come in. I mean, not saying completely free of, government funding.
Right.
The county government does not contribute any funding to the airport. They have a commission and they pay for an airport manager. So they pay for some basic staff, but the rest of the airport is funded by, the gas fees and everything else that we pay. So there is a motivation for the airport manager to encourage additional activity and to keep aircraft flying and to, really be a tireless promoter of aviation and have more events. And, some airports, I'll give you an example. A great example is my hangar partner here, his name is Derek White. He and I share this hangar. We keep a Bonanza, a Chipmunk, and an older Cessna 172 in this hangar. And we came up with this idea that, hey, we're going to do a formation clinic. So we contacted the JLFC, and we had a JLFC sanctioned formation clinic. We based it right here out of this hangar. This hangar, we call it the Bat Cave. We launched it out of here. Well, that first conversation with the airport manager, you just don't know which way it's going to go. And so when we approached Kurt and said, hey, Kurt, can we have a meeting with you and the tower chief? Let's coordinate something. What do you want to talk about? Well, we want to talk about doing a formation clinic here at Waukesha County Airport. He's like, that sounds wonderful. When can you meet? So, he facilitated a meeting. We grabbed the tower chief, Andy, and the airport manager and Eric went over and met with them and, hey, what's this going to be? How many aircraft? What type of aircraft? They were all about, hey, let's do it. Tower chief had a whole list of things he needed from us as far as, hey, when your sorties depart, which areas are they going to divide up training areas? And the two of them worked with Eric to help facilitate our clinic. And that's amazing. To have an airport manager that's that supportive. Even my hangar neighbors, I have neighbors on either side of my hangar. We needed ramp space. Approached and he's basically one of the local FBOs. Approached Brian Behrens and said, hey, Brian, I need to use some ramp space. He goes, well, we're not operating out of that hangar that weekend. You got that ramp, and I don't know about this, but, we'll make this work over here. So, also other people on the airport cooperating with all this activity. And I'll be honest with you, I mean, with an outsider looking in might have characterized it as chaos. But it really wasn't. It was organized chaos, and we had a lot of airplanes out in a very small area. They were well marshaled and organized into flights, and we were in and out very quickly. Coming in for, debriefing the mission, getting back into the aircraft and switching leads and going back out. And this rolled all weekend for 3 days, and it was amazing. And we were able to get fast cards done for about 8 pilots during that clinic. It's, super impressive. I mean, normally if you get a clinic with 30 people and you get four of them to come out of that clinic with a card, it's impressive because, the standard is extremely rigid, and the instructors are very particular about your skill set before they issue that card to fly in formation. And as we all know, I mean, in order to fly, CAF aircraft in formation, it requires you to have that card. And so we're going to continue to do that. That clinic will happen again next year. But, the airport manager could have easily just said, hey, I'm not cooperative. I'm not going to cooperate with this. It just seems like too much. I'm concerned about the disruption of the other traffic, and he was just not like that at all. Just amazing partner for everybody that operates on this airfield. And our tower controllers are the best in the business. They can get a little grouchy with us, but they are always awesome. Usually it's when we screw up.
Airports with some of the other sponsors had Top Gun played in one of the big hangars, and then we were able to bring one of our aircraft in and display it before the movie started, Top Gun, and they invited people to dress up in aviation gear, and they were overwhelmed. That I think they said 800 people showed up out of the community. It was, and they gave free popcorn, and then we did the next movie, The Devotion, and again, a great response. And in fact, my doctor brought her father's gloves that he wore when he flew the Corsair in World War II. She brought it to the movie with her. So yeah, it's just things like that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, speaking of veterans, this is a great story.
Oh, that's my friend, Dr. Arthur Ando. This is the day before his 91st birthday. He got his pilot license. So Kreitz Field here was the Kreitz brothers started this field here. His check ride was done by Dale Kreitz in the 50s. And so he's a pilot. He's an Air Force veteran and a physician surgeon. And so this is the day before his 91st birthday. And look at that smile. You can, that's
priceless.
Priceless. And he flew a Cessna 411, and he would take his 6 children and his wife to South America to do missions work and do surgery and fly his whole family down there. And the kids learned, what poverty was. And so yeah, now he's joining our wing. He told me he was at the wing meeting Saturday. He's I guess I better join your wing, but I'm not going to do the lifetime membership. He's 91.
Yeah, we had a great time. He a very, very good passenger. So we took off out of actually right out of this hangar. We took off out of here and we flew around probably for 50 minutes, which can be a little long for some passengers. But he was just having that smile that you see in that picture was the way he looked the entire flight, and he just was a delight to have in the back seat, talking about some of his adventures and some of his experiences in the military. And I guess when somebody has an experience like this, it really does bring back a flood of memories of their time in service and what they've done. And he was just it was an honor for me to take him for a ride. I mean, just the privilege of doing that was just amazing. You could see it in his face, the enthusiasm, and we hope to do this for a lot more people in the future. I mean, we're continuing to push to do more and more of this kind of work. It's very, very gratifying. I'll skip out of work any day to go make this happen.
There you go. What does go ahead?
And he still plays his his uncle's World War I bugle, and he plays the caps at the American Legion. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, and next picture, that's my 83-year-old mother that went up for her birthday in October. So she went up in the T-34. She's 33 years retired from the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary, and it's her first time in a flight suit. She looks pretty good for 83 up there. And Mike Woods there was her pilot. She actually won the ride in a raffle at our Christmas party last year. So, and Mike said, well, when I get back from Florida in April, I should be able to have read the manual and remember how to fly it and take you up again. So, yeah.
One of the things we do at every one of our meetings is we hand out raffle tickets at the beginning of the meeting, and at the end of the meeting, it keeps people from leaving. But at the end of the meeting, we have a drawing, and the winner gets a free ride in the Warbird. And it's just one way to get a member, enthusiasm going. And if someone's wins and has already had one, they can pick anyone in there to give it to. And that's what happened at the last meeting. Glenn Lydell won, and he's already got a ticket for a ride. And we had a young 15-year-old, new cadet with his father. He walked over there and gave it to Bobby Gibson, and he's the happiest kid in the world now. He's going to get a ride. So he's that's what we do. I mean, we make a difference in people's lives.
Definitely. And again, the reason that we're talking about the T-34 tonight is because it is one of the 12 planes of Christmas. And you're looking to raise quite a substantial amount of money to help get the airplane, the electronics we talked about, get the paperwork, the STCs, and all those things done. So, so if you are watching and you can go to CAF's website, look up 12 Planes for Christmas. The program will officially launch right around Thanksgiving time. But I know that our friends at the Wisconsin Wing would love it if you could make a donation, whatever donation you can make. And Mike, as you said, you also have some matching funds that will help kind of move things along as well.
Yeah, we have $3,000 of matching funds available. So we will, for the first $3,000 of donations at least, we will double those donations. So your money will be worth twice as much as you help us reach this project goal. It's a substantial amount of money, but I think that once we get the story in front of people and they see, how we support the CAF mission with this aircraft, people have been super generous in the past, and I think they will be in the future.
Very good. We have a couple of questions that have come in from our viewers. One of them wondering if the Waukesha Airport has an air show.
The Waukesha Airport does not have an air show. We have several events where we bring aircraft together, but no official air show. The Milwaukee Air and Water Show is the big air show in town, and that happens. Generally, it happens during when all of us are wrapped up in the Oshkosh Air Venture. So I miss it every year. But yeah, no air show here at Kreitz Field. But I think it'd be awesome to do one.
Yeah, Steve, it's just volunteers. We need volunteers to make shows work. So.
There is a history of us having some wonderful events here.
Wonderful.
Wings over Waukesha and gathering the Warbirds events in the past, but when COVID hit, it kind of slowed down all that effort, and volunteers are harder and harder to come by. So we're trying to build up the enthusiasm and get some volunteers going. And I think we've realized that we've got to do it as a group effort. We got to get multiple aviation organizations together to get enough volunteers and enough effort to put a show together. But we're working on it. It's our goal. We'd like to get there. There's probably, what is there, like 15 or 20 Warbirds parked all over in hangars at the airport. Right. We call it the little mini Waukesha Air Force here. So we have a lot of Warbirds here. So even if we have a rain or a cloudy day that they can't fly in, we can put a lot of Warbirds on the ramp for a show just by towing them.
Yeah. How many members are in the Wisconsin Wing?
We have about 62 to 75. Because the dues are coming up now, so if you fall, but about 75.
Yeah, we got a new member just today. We have a beautiful display case in the lobby at the airport there, and a pilot that just moved back to Milwaukee, learned to fly here in 1957, and he's 85 years old, just moved back to retire here, and he snowbirds in Florida. But he picked up our card off of our display, called me today, and he's all interested in wanting to join. But 20 years in the Navy and 30 years flying airlines, and he's back home to where he learned to fly, in 1957. And we just, we're picking up new members of young and old all the time. So it's just a great effort that we have of recruiting. Everybody's a recruiter in our wing. So
Yes.
Yeah, we have meetings the second Saturday at the airport terminal. So cafwi.org has the schedule on there, but the meetings are open to the public if somebody wants to, just check it out and see what's going on and, contemplating joining. That's a great way to do it. The barrier to entry is very low. Just stop in and, check out what we're talking about and what we're doing. It's a lot of fun.
And you might get an airplane company too.
And Candy, as you pointed out earlier, so many people think that you have to be a pilot to be a member of CAF, and that is absolutely untrue. We'll take anybody who is interested in warbird aircraft and preserving the history and inspiring the next generation.
Everybody has talents and gifts.
Yes.
We need a web coordinator. We need a development officer. And if you know QuickBooks, we need you too. There's always
That's always a challenge.
yeah, I think CAF this summer was like, we have 18,000 members at CAF, 7,000 colonels. That was around when I was at EAA. That was the factors. So, I mean, it's great. We have a great community. And you can join more than one wing.
Yeah, yes.
Join the national out of Dallas, Texas.
And you can also become a sponsor. You could be a sponsor of the T-34 even if you're not a pilot.
Correct. Yes.
So you can put your money where your mouth is and keep the airplane flying, even if you yourself might not have the for me, for instance, I do not have a rating or I guess type rating for retractable or high performance, right? But I could be a sponsor of the airplane.
Right. We could get you there, Steve.
I just realized I talked myself into that, so I might be in trouble.
Sponsorships. And so,
and we would love to have people volunteer to be, flight crew sponsors on the aircraft. I mean, there is a lot of work that goes with the airplane, and there's a lot. It's a lot of fun to learn more about the aircraft and learn how to touch and feel it and how to move it around and show it off at shows. And we would love to have more support with ground crew. I mean, that would be amazing.
Right.
So great
and
point.
Santa loves our plane too. There's Santa and Mrs. Claus.
It's the one Warbird that Santa might be able to fit in.
Exactly.
We
So,
need a prize program. We'll need people to marshal in planes. We need people to sign their hold harmless. Learn how to. We have a seat that they can learn how to put their belts on before they get an actual plane. We have people that can just volunteer and do those little jobs. Put up stanchions and safety, make sure no one's coming out towards the plane. There's all little things that people can do.
Very good. Again, what was the website address if people would like more information about the Wisconsin wing?
So it's cafwi.org.
Very good. And watch for the T-34, this beautiful airplane. Coming soon to the 12 Planes of Christmas. If you can, please donate. Like Mike said, there's some matching donations already lined up, so your dollars will be doubled. So watch for that in the 12 Planes of Christmas. Just visit the CAF website, and you can find out more. And I'm sure you'll have a link from the Wisconsin Wing website as well.
Yes, for sure. It'll be right there on our. As soon as that link is live, it'll be up.
Sounds good. Well, Candy, Mike, Gary, thank you very much for joining us tonight and sharing some insights on the Wisconsin wing, the T-34, and all the great work that you are doing in the Milwaukee area. We do appreciate you taking time to be our guest tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Appreciate you having us.
And thank you for watching tonight. We'd love to hear your thoughts on tonight's episode or any ideas you might have for a future show. You can just feel free to drop us a line at media@cafhq.org. Now, if you like what you see on Warbird Tube, please share it across your social media platforms. And remember, if you are a subscriber on YouTube, click that bell icon and you'll get notifications when our new episodes are posted. Until next time, I'm Steve Buss, wishing you blue skies and tailwinds, and please have a great night.